introduce myself. Joe, did you want to introduce me, or you? Let me.
No, please go ahead.
Okay.
We skipped so much time.
Yeah, I got this momentum thing going now.
We do have a drawing at the end, so stick around. But yeah,
drawing at the end, stick around, and I'm sure I'll win it. But, so I was just got back from GTAC last week, and I did something I've never done before, which is actually host a conference as opposed to just standing up and speaking for an hour and then boogering off. Right? That's the easy part. And I was kind of shocked at just how difficult it was. But we got these cool shirts, and that was awesome. We got a couple of Googlers in the crowd. Kenji Misaki, and did I see anyone else? And Richard was supposed to be here as well. Anyhow, there's a couple of people from Google. That's my current employer. I always say current because you never know. Because I have worked a lot of places. I've wandering heart, I suppose. I've been a consultant. I've worked for other people's startups. I did my own startup, sold it. I have worked for IBM. I've worked for Cisco. I've worked for Microsoft, and now I work for Google. And in all that time, you know, either as a developer in the early stages of my career and as a tester in the later stages of my career, where people mumble around you and you just get used to it. I'm back in development. I'm a development director for Google Plus APIs and some various and sundry tools within Google. So I've just written a book. Look at that. Called you can just sit right here. What's it called? I'll switch it around. It's called How Google Tests Software, and it's not available yet because I used the old-fashioned way of publishing it in a book, which I'll never do again.
What's that?
There's all this pressure for this deadline, right? I started the book on a whim, and I think February I wrote a blog post, How Google Tests Software, because it's always the question you get as a Google employee. How do you guys do this? And you know, we've got some pretty serious. Wow, I haven't touched a PC in quite some time. So you know, we have some pretty big problems at Google. We have. Yeah, you do it. It's PCs. It doesn't like me. It knows I quit Microsoft. We have some pretty big problems at Google. We have literally hundreds of millions of lines of code distributed across millions of source files. This actually had real numbers in it until I realized this was going to be recorded. You know, there's certain things I won't say on camera. Billions, these are daily, by the way. Billions of build actions prompting millions of automated tests to run across hundreds of thousands of browser instances. Obviously, we've got virtualization figured out at Google. From anywhere, you can pick up a machine with any operating system you want, except Mac OS, because they don't like you to do that. You know, we don't have licenses to do that. At Google, we built an operating system inside of 12 months. We not only scale, we work fast. Google Plus recently, we had 100 features shipped in 100 days. The scale at which we work, the speed at which we work, is like nothing I've ever experienced before in my life. And so I always get this question, how does Google test software? And so I started blogging about it. I blogged one post, and then I started another one, and I kind of halfway through the third one, I'm thinking, what should I do? I don't even know how many this is going to be. And my boss at the time, Pat Copeland, sent me an IM chat one day, and he's like, dude, your blog post was the highest rated, highest number of page views for a single day of all of Google's blog posts. It blew away Larry Page's, it blew away the Google Docs, it blew away Chrome. It was the highest rated single day blog post on that, of the year in 2011. And I was like, wow, what do I do now? He said, write a book, dumbass. And he said, and besides, he said, the stuff you're beginning to write, he said, is really starting to get dodgy, because I've done it before. I wrote a blog post once where I said software testers pushing out test automation like the Octomom pushes out fetuses. That was I thought it was funny too, right? And it was making a point, right? We don't always write the test automation because we should write the test automation. We write it because we can. I mean, how many developers, how many testers just write the automation that makes sense to them? It's like, oh, I know how to code that, so I'll write it. And they don't think through why they're writing it and what its specific purpose is. They just do it because they can. Like the freaking Octomom, right? I'm going to have 8 babies and get on Oprah. You know, this doesn't make sense. So anyhow, that got censored, and they sent me an email. I was like, dude, you're an idiot, right? Did you publish that? So anyhow, I was beginning to creep into some pretty nasty territory, and so he's like, you know, we're going to have to start getting legal to approve all these numbers that you want to publish, and I think I finished like the 7th or 8th, how Google Test Software publishing stopped because the review process. So I just kept writing, and the review process just happened with legal. That ended up being submitted in a book, you know, and the publisher's like in May, hurry, 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 and in June, hurry, 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 and I hurry, hurry, hurry. And I got finished on July 1st, had a big party, and it's still not published. So anyhow, I will never, ever, ever publish another book through mainstream publishing again. It's a dead industry, and the next one will be an ebook, and it'll be available for $1.99. But here we are, and the book is coming. If you're gagging for it, you can go to howgoogletestsoftware.com and buy the rough cut. Now, if you buy the rough cut, it's discounted like crazy, but it's also, and I don't get any money off of it, so I really prefer you wait. But if you buy the rough cut, it is the rough cut, right? It is the collection of Google Doc files that we sent to the publisher, unformatted, and in an order. Right, so it's all there, except there's a security chapter I still have to write, and I've got to write a preface, but there's some good stuff there, right? Pat Copeland's historical perspective on how Google got where it is today is in there, which is really good. I know because I wrote it. It's got his name on it. I wrote it. We sat down and talked. I mean, I worked with the guy for 3 years, and we talked at length. I took notes. You know, what do you do if somebody doesn't want to write? Well, I'm a writer, so I wrote it and sat with him, and he, you know, massaged it and edited it after. So it's amazing how, and I'm this way with coding. I don't write code anymore, but I edit a lot of code, and I review a lot of code. I just don't want to start it. Right? He's that way with writing prose. He doesn't want to write it, but he knows when I've written it wrong. So anyhow, that book is there. So let's start. Test engineering at Google has actually very little to do with testing, if we're doing it right. And I'm going to make the point tonight that testing is such a last resort that if you find testing to be a very difficult process, you are doing it wrong. And test engineering at Google is all about, in fact, I wish we stopped calling it testing. It's about quality. I don't care about testing. Anybody who cares about testing for testing's sake really needs to quit software and do something else. In fact, when I ask people who work at Google, what do you do? And they say, I'm a tester, I immediately think this is a problem employee. They have associated themselves with the role of testing and not with the product that they're testing. And that is a serious problem. I don't work on Chrome, I'm a tester. I don't work on Google Docs, I'm a tester. I don't work on Google Plus, I'm a tester. That is a problem. Right? Users don't fall in love with tests. Users don't fall in love with test plans. Users fall in love with the app that you're building. And the minute that you start associating more with your role than the product you're constructing, you've got a problem. Your company has a problem. Your company should fire you immediately and replace you with someone who is more interested in building something that customers will love than playing some role, right? You're not an actor in a play. It's about the play. It's not about you. You're not a forward on the Seattle Sounders. How many people are not at the Sounders game because they came here? Some people have told me that. Dudes, you picked a good game. Or do it.
Wet out there too.
And it's wet, yeah. If they had won in Real Salt Lake, how many
Yeah, whole
people
different
would be
story.
here? Yeah. So it's all about the team. So here's something that's had a bigger impact on quality than any testing we could ever possibly do. Post-ship bug fix. This is part of test engineering. Any Google tester needs to get this shit right. Oh yeah, politically correct. Yes. I tend to cuss. I tend to say things that annoy people. But I'm not sexist. I'm not racist. I'm just a politically incorrect guy from Kentucky. This is important, and this has made a bigger impact on quality than testing has ever done. Post-ship bug fixing. The ability to fix bugs fast. Right? Why has all the desktop software and all client-server software over the years been such a piece of crap? It's not because Microsoft wasn't doing their job, and Citrix and Novell and Cisco and Dell and all these other people who were writing this stuff. It's because bugs were really difficult. Once you shipped the software, it was done, right? At that point, you're Toyota, and you got to recall it to fix it. And we've solved this problem now, particularly on web and mobile software. We can push new builds, we can push bug fixes to a customer quickly. That has had more impact on software quality over the past 2 decades than anything the testing industry has ever done. Why would you associate yourself with the role of testing when this simple idea has had more impact on software quality than you have, or me? I'm not done. Testing's not even in the top 10 here. Number 2, self-repairing software. You ever seen Chrome say, oh, snap? First time I saw that, I thought, oh my God, what's a 12-year-old write this? 8-year-old write this error message? But you don't see it for long, do you? Because Chrome pops back up and says, oh, I'm okay now. Something sucked back there. And, you know, but here I am again. Right? Firefox does this, IE does this, a lot of web apps do this. They crash. The operating system, the browser says, oh wow, I'm screwed. Go back to the last state where I wasn't screwed and just restart everything. More impact on software quality than anything we've done in testing. This one idea, the ability to know you're screwed and just restart. In fact, a lot of times I see users using Chrome or something. I watch it stalk the airports now, right? Oh, look, this guy using Chrome. Walk behind, watch him for a little while, and I'll see Chrome just kind of shiver. And they'll look at it, kind of funny, and they'll look around like, oh. And then it's back. Right? Self-repairing software. The error detection that we now build into our source code so that when something goes wrong, we can fix it. I mean, you've heard the old joke. There's 3 engineers, a mechanical engineer, an electrical engineer, and a software engineer in a car, driving along, the car breaks down. Mechanical engineer gets out, opens the hood, and starts looking at all the carburetor and all these mechanical thingies. And the electrical engineer goes out and he checks the battery, and the software engineer stays in the car, rolls down all the windows, rolls them back up again, and says, let's start it again. It works! It works! Why not exploit it? Why not make it part of the software? Number 2. Actually, these are in no specific order, but there's 10 of them and none of them are testing. Number 3, server software. If you're working on a team that still manages their own server, stop them. This is so unnecessary. Go up to your developers and say, dude, it's 2011. We got shit that takes care of that. It's called the cloud. Manage servers somewhere where you don't have to see them. Stop them. By the way, I'm going to come up with 10 of these. None of them are testing. Not all of them are going to apply to your software. Some of them will, some of them won't. Even if it's 3 of them that do those 3 things before you write a single test case. They're all more important. They're all more impactful. Figure this out, right? App Engine. This is the Google logo for App Engine. App Engine makes it so that you never have to configure another server in your life. You never have to worry about load. And you don't have to worry about what if our software is really popular and we get 100 million users instead of just 100 that we have today. You don't have to worry about that, right? The cloud takes care of it for you. This is quality. You're not going to break because of load. You're not going to break because of capacity. You're not going to have to accidentally type in some arcane server config and get it wrong. How many bugs have you found as software testers that have nothing to do with the quality of software, but the quality of the configuration? Stop configuring software. Humans can't do it. And machines can do it really, really well. Before you write a single test case, fix this problem. Next. So, back in the old days, if you were a WordPerfect user, and WordPerfect broke, what are you going to do? Just say, oh, this sucks, I'm going to go to Word. No, there's a lot of work involved in conversion. So not only do you have to go out and buy the software and load all the disks in and figure out how to configure, get it started, and then you got to convert all your docs. You're not going to do that. Well, what if Word pisses you off today? Google Docs is a click away, right? What if Google Docs pisses you off? There's a dozen other options out there, and they are a click away. This has had a huge impact on software quality. And as a tester, what's your job? Your job is to figure out who those competitors are and to remind your developers every single day. Our users have options. Here they are. And look, when I run this test case in your broken, crappy app, watch me run it in your competitor's app. It works. The competitor's app is 8 seconds away. This is software quality. It has nothing to do with testing. It has everything to do with quality. And it's more impactful than any test case you can ever write. Next one. Reduction of dependencies. All right, I got HTML5 up here because I like to talk about the web. But here's a dependency we've taken away at Google. You ever get this? With show of hands, have you ever had a situation where you found a bug, you go over and show it to the developer repros it on their machine, and the bug doesn't appear? How many people have done that, right? Doesn't work on my machine, we've all done it. If you haven't done that, you haven't been in testing for more than a day. At Google, every developer, every tester, every machine in the test labs, every machine in the data center, either on the corporate side or the production side, is the exact same version of Linux. No dependencies. There's none of this works on your machine and works on my machine. If you want to build a different version of Linux or you want to use some other operating system, you got to go through layers and layers and layers of approval. Me as a director, my boss's boss is Larry Page. I've got a position in this company. I can't even approve Windows being used. And I think my boss might be able to. Vic and Dotra might be able to. Right? Keep it simple, stupid. That is more impactful on testing than any test case you could ever write. Reduce dependencies. Everywhere you get one of these bugs, figure out why, and eliminate that source. It's not about testing. What's next? Elegant programming languages. What do you all use? Do you C, C++? Sometimes you have to, right? Chrome is written in C++. It's a client application. Speed is important. We have to do it. But when you can, push your developers toward more modern, elegant programming languages. C++, the best C++ developers. C++ doesn't require you to write bugs. It injects them into binary form. Java doesn't require you to write bugs. It is happy to just create them out of thin air. Right? The more you can push developers, if there's a choice between Python and Java, please choose Python. There are so many bugs you simply can't write in this language. You can't write big programs in this language. It forces you to write really small programs and modularize them. Right? They enforce good habits. Begin to migrate your people. And like I said, you can't always do this, right? You're Boeing, you probably don't want Python running your airplane. But for those of you who have a choice, please do this. Next. Certain bug species, if you're still seeing stack overflows, if you're still finding bugs, look at the bug database. If you're still finding stack overflows, your developers are using the wrong compiler flags. Your developers are not enabling things in Windows like ASLR. And they're not doing it because they're idiots. Prevent them from being idiots. Preventing them from being idiots is better than any test case you can ever possibly write. You see how so much of quality has nothing to do with testing and everything to do with policing the people, the process, and the technologies that are being used in software. This is what I expect of Google test engineers. And I do this. I write. I'm a manager now. I write a lot of SQL queries, trying to figure out what's going on in all these databases where we store all of our information. If I ever see a Stack Overflow, man, I'm livid. What's next? Better code management. Can your developers check in a code block without having someone else review it? If that is physically possible in your development workflow processes, you got a problem. Because anybody can break a build at any time, and it's one person's fault. So we have this internal tool called Mondrian that we use to control. You physically can't check something in unless the several conditions apply, right? That you've got a readability in that language. Having a readability in that language is like being a committer in open source. You have written a lot of code in that language, you've had a lot of people review that code, and you've successfully not broken the build over successful weeks and months. And then you get a status at Google called a readability. We have readabilities in Python, Java, C++, and JavaScript. Once you have that readability, you can now check in code. But the code still can't be checked in without it going through a review process. Now, because you have a readability, you have fewer reviews that are necessary. If you don't have a readability, you have more reviews that are necessary. But it goes through this automated workflow process. Emails get sent, you get feedback, it waits for the people to do the code reviews, and people get rewarded for doing code reviews. It's part of the whole performance review process. If you're an engineer at Google, you have to do code reviews, or you're going to get docked on your quarterly performance reviews. So it's built into the process. There are, I forget what it is, but this is a screen snap of the open source version of our tool that we use internally at Google. Use it. If your developers aren't using it, you can write all the test cases you want, and it won't match decent quality workflow within the development practices of your organization. Next one. I forgot, I've lost count.
Do you mind questions during this talk?
I do. I'd like to say it to the end because we started so late. Continuous build. I remember bugs that I'm finding bugs in companies I worked for past. I've mentioned them where I find a bug and think, wow, this is an awful bug, and then I go and only to find out that I'm working on an old build. Damn. Now I got to go and try to repro it in the new build. And then by the time I repro it in the new build and get it all working, oh yeah, the bug's still there, there's another new build. And the distribution of the builds isn't uniform. At Google, it's darn near impossible for two testers to be testing on a different build. Right? The automation takes care of that. We do continuous builds. At the very worst, we do daily builds. And we name them, right? In Chrome, when I was the test director of Chrome, we had the Canary build, which you had to be kind of brave to pick up and start testing that. Right? That's why we call it the Canary build. We had the Dev build, and the Dev build, if you're a developer in Chrome, you have to use it. And if your boss catches you using a different version of Chrome, like the stable build or the release build, you are not going to be happy. We're all using the same build. Remember, there's a test build, and then the dog food build. Say, right, it goes out, and you can pick the build you want. Right, the build management and the processes around making sure everybody's testing the same thing all the time is really powerful. Way more powerful than testing. Please do this. And now you can also get users involved here too, because you're all working on the same build. A user is going to be working on testing the same stuff you're testing, right? And the crowdsource and dog fooders and everybody else. There's a lot of testing going on out there. And if you're all working on the same build, you can take credit for it and you can manage it a lot better than you can if you've got this hodgepodge process of who knows what build who is using. Right? Stop that. That is so 1998. It's 2011. We've got to upgrade this next thing. This is the last one. This is number 10. So this one, I kind of hinted at this earlier, the convergence of the user and test community. I tell my test engineers, back when I was a test director, I used to tell my test engineers, look, I really don't care if you do any testing at all. I know test is in your title, and I know you've read my book on exploratory testing, it's badass, whatever. There's a lot of testing going on out there. Developers are using this product every day. They're picking up the bill. They're using the product. Dog fooders around the company, right? Google's a big company now, especially we bought Motorola and almost doubled in size. We're a big company now. And we force our dog food products on people. You know, I was using the version of Gmail today. I was like, I have never seen this before in my life. Never seen this interface. And I'm looking around at other people and they've all got it too. I'm thinking, where the hell did this thing come from? Where's my old Gmail? Where I couldn't find the chat button. Where's the chat button?
You're not the only person who reacted.
Oh man, so you know there's a lot of testing going on out there, and they're better testers than you by default because they're users. I don't care how many testing books you've read. You are a tester pretending to be a user. These are users who are damn good at it. They don't have to pretend, right? Every test case they write is automatically priority 0, priority 1 bug, just by default, because they're users, they found it in the product. If you're a tester and you find a bug, you got to argue that it's important. So I had some jokes about that, but clearly you all already get that. They don't have to convince anybody it's important. So what are you going to do? You're going to sit back and just test like crazy, hoping that you run over the same bugs they run over? I mean, how many times have you tested the hell out of a piece of software? You release it, and the first hour you get bug reports and you're thinking, God, how did we miss that? You missed it because you're a tester pretending to be a user. Right? So much better to take credit for the testing, right? Enable those users to provide good feedback. Wouldn't it be nice if a user could just say, there's a bug, and the state of that machine and the test case that they wrote and everything that they did is automatically transferred into the developer's brain who wrote the bug? Okay, we can't get that far, but we can get close. And I'm going to show you some tools that get very close to that scenario, right? I put a bunch of test engineers, took them off of Chrome when I was on it, and I said, stop testing. If you all write another test case, you're fired. And they don't realize I can't really fire them. But sometimes if you're a big enough asshole, people listen. And have them write the tool that you're going to see in a minute to make bug reporting just happen. Okay, so where are we now? So here's what we've got. I'd really like this person to go away. You know, you've heard, if you've been watching my tweet stream, if you've heard about the GTAC, we have a test presentation called Test is Dead. I really would like testers to go away. I know that's not a popular notion, but it turns out that the work that we're doing here, I mean, how many of you all feel appreciated? How many of you all, by show of hands, Googlers just ignore all that? You all are so pampered, it's pathetic. How many of you all feel like a first-class citizen? So actually, none of you all raise your hand. I don't want to embarrass anybody. You know, it's generally, the research shows testers make a minimum of 30% less than developers. Minimum.
Yeah, I always have to explain what they're doing.
And you always have to, right, it's not appreciated. You write stuff no one cares about. I mean, when was the last time you wrote a test plan and somebody's like, oh, this is beautiful. Right? I mean, it just doesn't happen. So we've got to stop doing the stuff that's not appreciated and do more of the stuff that is appreciated. And I'm telling you, the stuff up here is more appreciated. And the stuff down here is better. Better test cases by definition. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to push a lot of testing on our developers. Now, if you read how Google tests software, you'll see how we did this in Google, but we did it. Right? We have software engineers, and we have software engineers in tests, and they're on the exact same pay scale in Google. The exact same promotion velocity at Google. It wasn't easy. Turn the clock back to 2006, and it was not like that at all. Testers weren't even second-class citizens. They weren't even that good. Right? Calling them a second-class citizen was a compliment in 2006. Even in 2008, that had changed. 2009, it had changed completely by the time I joined the company. Now in 2011, It's interchangeable. I've got software engineers and tests doing developers' jobs, and I have developers doing software engineering test jobs. It just works that way. So here's the deal. Testing isn't something separate. Testing is a feature, just like any other feature. Why are we managing test assets as separate from the code assets? We have program managers and developers who are good at managing and writing features. And then the whole test automation stuff we just do separately. It's in a different tree. We use different tools. The tools have funny names. Developers never heard of them. Eggplant? What is this, lunch? Right? Cucumber? Salad? I don't know. I don't get it. What are you guys doing over there? Why are we doing that? Why are we taking something that's as important as test development and putting it outside of the mainstream process that works? That we have program managers who manage and they're good at it. And we have developers who write the code and they're good at it. Test automation should be a first-class citizen, and the only way it can be a first-class citizen is for it to be a feature. And for it to have a feature owner who is a developer. Now my theory is that should be the youngest, newest developer on the team. Now why? Because testing's easy. You always give it to the junior guy because nobody else wants to do it. No. It's actually a lot harder, but it's the best feature for the new guy on the team because all the other features are slices of the product, and you don't really learn the whole product. Right? I go to Chrome. If I want to figure out how to use some new feature of Chrome, I can go to a random Chrome dev and say, how do I use, let's just say sync, right? And if they're working on like the tab feature or something like that, they're like, I have no idea. I know how to use tabs, right? They tell you, oh, I didn't do this, and you right click here, and you do, right? They know their own feature, but they don't know the rest of the product. I like to put the new devs on tests because it forces them to learn the whole product. And the feature consists of software that allows all the other feature developers to write test code. And if we do that, I think we've gone a long way toward getting it managed in the dev workflow and for it to be part of the product and not something separate. And then down here, it really doesn't matter. Let's stop this, oh, I am a great exploratory tester. I've taken Michael Bolton or James Fox or James Whittaker's class. I've read their books. I can break software like crazy. Who cares, right? That was really important 5-10 years ago because it was 5-10 years ago. It's not important now. What's important is not who does the testing, is not who finds the bug, but that the bug gets found. The bug gets reported in a format that makes it easy to fix. Because that's the key to fixing bugs. How many people have found bugs they really think should have been fixed that weren't? It's a hard argument to make. You should fix this bug because I found it. And because I can come up with some scenario that makes it sound really scary. Right? No, bugs get fixed because they're easy to fix. Bugs get fixed when a developer looks at it and says, no, I can fix that. Right? If they look at it and say, oh, shit. Wow. Working as designed, run away! Right? You make it easy, they fix them all. That's more important than writing good test cases. So that's what we're going to do. So now we've got, go ahead, we've got a few, okay, so I forgot I put this part in. So test plans piss me off. They are of all the artifacts that we create during software development, they are the ugly stepchild. I mean, ugly. You sit around and you say, okay, how are we going to test this? And then everybody kind of looks at each other. Don't make eye contact. They're going to make me write the test plan, right? We're going to look at this. I'm going to wait.
Can you say what you mean when you say test plan?
No, but I will.
Okay.
So no one wants to write it, right? No one wants to do this. So, and then you look at them, and I actually don't know what a test plan means, because when I first got to Google, I walked around and said, show me your test plans, right? I walk into Google, and all of a sudden I got 100 people reporting to me, and I don't even know their names. And so I thought a good way of introducing is just walk around and say, oh, well, so let me see your test plan. And they all had them. Some of them were Google Docs. Some of them were spreadsheets. Some of them were printed. Woo! Some of them were kind of like, yeah, we had one of those. But all of them were basically dead. They'd write a test plan, and then the code would be developed. And they would get wrapped up in the hustle and bustle of the project and realized that, you know, keeping this test plan up to date is something no one cares about. It's a great way to get thrown under the bus on my review. And besides, it's too much work. It's too hard to keep that test plan up to date. And so they were all in different formats. They were all out of date. I mean, some of them grossly out of date, right? This one guy showed me when the date stamp on it was 2 years ago. And he was really embarrassed. It's like, you know, well, why didn't you do it? And he said, well, you know, I wrote it and then no one cared about it. We reviewed it for like 5 minutes and then, you know, I realized that that test plan is not where the bugs are. The bugs are in the software. And I can either talk about finding the bugs or I can go find the bugs. And going find the bugs is far more important. So I did an experiment. I took 4 of my testers off the job and I said, just don't worry about shipping whatever we were shipping. I want you to go in that room over there, reserve the conference room for the whole day. Go in that conference room over there and I want you to build me a test plan for App Engine. I just made that, you know, just pick something out. I knew it was pick something they were familiar with. Go build me a test plan for App Engine in 10 minutes. And they're like, what? And I said, 10 minutes, come on. You know, there's no question I could ask you about App Engine that you wouldn't answer. You know this product cold. Go build a test plan in 10 minutes. And so they went in there, closed the door, and 10 minutes later I came back and I said, all right, time's up. How have you done? And they hadn't. Right? They had talked about what about this, what about this. They had taken some copious notes. So I said, okay, stop. And they said, well, you're going to give us more time? I said, no, I'm not going to give you more time. Scrap App Engine, now I want you to do Chrome Web Store. And they said, okay. And I said, you got 10 minutes. So now they knew I was serious about the 10-minute thing. They knew that bastard's going to be back. We better have something done. So this time I went back and they had a bunch of notes, right? They filled up the whiteboard. They had a bunch of notes they had written down. And they had some ideas about how they would test Chrome Web Store. And I said, are you finished? And they said, no. And I said, well, what didn't you understand about this 10-minute limit, guys? Come on, seriously. Gave them another product, 10 minutes. They worked a lot faster that time. And they started making some realizations. We can't write prose. We have to write bullets. We can't, anything that doesn't matter has to be left off because the bastard's going to be back. Right? And he's expecting more this time. We ended up getting through 6 products, and on the 6th one, when I opened the door and said, 10 minutes is up, they said, no! 10 minutes isn't up! Close the damn door and come back in 10 minutes. I said, okay. They're making progress. Closed the door, came back, so they had a total of 20 minutes. I actually gave them an extra 5. Total of 25 minutes, and they said, we're done. And the project was Google Plus. Huge piece of software. In 20 minutes, they had built a test plan. It turned out it was 80% of the test plan. But I actually don't think anybody's ever built 100% of a test plan before. I'm not even sure NASA, Boeing, and all these people who claim, right, there's always got to be something left out. But you discover it, don't you? Right? Your initial test plan is never 100%, so I thought 80% was pretty darn good. And we literally got 80% of the features on that. So we came up with 3 ideas. The first thing that's important is kind of the, why are we testing this and what are we trying to prove? Right? It's Chrome. We're trying to prove it's fast, secure, right? There's adjectives and adverbs that show what this software has to do to satisfy its mission. The second thing out of all 6 of these that we found were what to test, the nouns, the components, right? Chrome is made of tabs and sync and browsing and rendering, right? Specific nouns that talk about what it does, or what it's made of. And then the third part was verbs, what the software does. Sentences that say Chrome renders a web page. Chrome plays a flash file. Chrome allows you to change tabs. Chrome can save a file. Written down just as quick as possible. Attribute component capability, this is what we call this. This is not particularly new, right? UML has talked about noun and verb analysis. I think I've never heard adjectives and adverbs in that, but they talk about noun and verb analysis a lot. And it works. It's quick. It's easy to update. In fact, I now limit it, 30 minutes maximum. 10 minutes for the attributes and components because that should be easy. And then the rest of the time for verbs. Attributes are really easy. In fact, I think if they take more than 60 seconds, you don't make a product very well. we find attributes on, go ahead and click it here. This is the homepage for Chrome. And here's the attributes: useful, simple, fast, modern, fast, simple, right? You just find them. Or you go to a marketing guy and say, give me your elevator pitch for Chrome, and write down every adjective and adverb that person says, and you're done, right? That is what you're trying to prove about the software. Next. Components. What are they? These are easy to do too. Walk around your devs and say, what component are you building? And they'll tell you. What component are you building? They tell you. What component are you building? They tell you. When you've asked all the devs that question, tally up all the answers, those are your components. Nothing else. You're done, right? If you can't do these two things in 10 minutes, you shouldn't be testing your software, someone else should. Next. Capabilities. These are harder. And so with these, we sit down and say, okay, what does this thing do? And it's important that the capabilities lead to test cases, or they're useless. If they just describe what the software does in some generic term, if they don't lead specifically to a test case, if you can't take a single capability and write a test case, they're not good enough capabilities. And so we sit around and we talk about these. We did Chrome operating system fully with this methodology. This is the methodology we use to test it. The only test plan that exists for Chrome OS is an ACC. And we sat around, there were like 7 of us, and we racked our brains trying to think of what Chrome OS does. And one of the appendices in how Google tests software is the full ACC for Chrome OS. We have the full ACC for Chrome OS and the full ACC for Google Plus as appendices in this book. What are all these things? We came up with like 307 or 304 or something like that capabilities for Chrome OS, and we thought, man, this is an operating system, right? They took a browser and melted it into hardware. Surely that's more than 300 things. And we kept racking our brain and racking our brain and racking our brain and said, all right, that's it. No, and they said, let's just go and ask the devs. One of my testers says, you don't ask a dev anything. Unless you want to have eyes rolled in your general direction. You don't ask devs. You know how to get some. Come on, you're testers. You know how to get something from a dev, right? You don't ever ask a question. You make a statement that sounds really wrong. Because they like to tell you when you're wrong. So I walk in and I said, hey, guess what? Chrome operating system only does 307 things. Can you believe that? And how long is it taking you guys to do this? 307. They're like, oh, bullshit. 307? No way. It's way more complicated than that. Who said 307? I said, wow, we've written it down, man. We've done a full ACC on this baby. Oh, well, we want to review this. We demand a meeting. Now! And we got an hour of their time, and then we got a second hour of their time because they were pissed. And we did miss, there were 314. We missed 7. And they walked out with their tail between their legs. But we had an ACC, we were fully and completely sure was at least 80% correct. Because they reviewed it. I mean, they did everything they can. They were incentivized to show us how wrong we were. And we got it, right? So, and then those things led to the test cases. Give me another page. Now, once you have all these quick capabilities, you still can't test them all. Even though there's only 314, it sounds 314 test cases isn't a lot, but each one of them can be tested in different ways, right? You can load that, render that web page, and then play the flash file, and then render it again, right? So there's a lot of sequencing and things like that, how to break software type stuff in there. And so we rated each one of them. There's rarely, seldom, occasionally, and often. That was it. And so, you know, how often do we expect these things to fail? And we got 4 or 5 opinions and we left it. Are we guessing? Yes. Yeah, we could take longer to guess. And we could make bigger words and have more referrals about our guesses. You're freaking, if you're going to guess quickly. And then impact. If it fails, how bad will it be? What did we do? We guessed. Because it's all a guess. Some of it was obvious, right? Chrome crashes, oh, that's bad. So we wrote all these down and we came up with qualitative scale for which one's more important. Right? And so this is what the ACC, the first ones we did, we just put in a spreadsheet. Go ahead. And now we've built a tool for it because it turned out to be valuable. Other teams started looking at this and said, hey, how come our testers aren't building this little thingy with all the thingies? It's got that cool spider graph and it's got this matrix, and it's like red, yellow, and green. Dude, how cool is that? How come our testers aren't doing this? So testers started coming to us and said, what is this thing? So we built a tool. So you click new project, go ahead, and then you enter a project name, go ahead. My super app, go ahead. And now you're here, and you've got a little bit about, okay, who owns this project? Who do you want to share data with? And we go ahead and enter all that stuff and click it again. And now you can make permission changes and have other people own it. That's no big deal. Go ahead. And now you're on your attributes. And so you click attributes, and now you start your attributes. So you type fast, go ahead. And now you got fast, you can enter a description if you want. Simple, you can enter a description if you want. And you keep going until you get all your attributes. Go ahead. You get all your attributes done. And now you're 10 minutes or less into this. And you start on your components. And you type your components, log in, you can enter a description if you want. This is for Google+. Publisher, in fact, a former Quardev employee did this, Richard Bustamante. Publisher, he built the whole Google+ ACC by himself in, all right, so Richard's really good. Yeah, Richard's really good, but I mean, it measured in hours, a small number of. Go ahead, you should get it again. And so now you get this matrix. You get attributes and components, and in the middle are capabilities. So for the secure, so for the login and secure, if we want to click define the components for that, we click that, and you get login is secure. And now we start typing, hides the passwords from the user. That's one capability. See how the capabilities are fairly fine-grained. You talk about things that are, it kind of forces you to, because you got to think it by attribute, by component. What are the capabilities? If it's login and secure, the whole A and C, first A and first C guide you to the second C, the capabilities. So click another one, and then you pick the rarely and considerable, and now you've got a score of 2 in this, and go ahead and click again. And once you finish, you get something that looks like this. Right? These are really risky areas that need a lot of testing because the scores are high. These are less so, these are less so, and these are places where there's no capabilities for those particular attribute component pairs at all. Go ahead and click it again. And so that's ACC. It's quick, it's intuitive, we get it done, and we move on. If you find yourself in these endless review loops of things, you're just doing something wrong. So now, ACC defines the size of the problem. Right? I said earlier, you want to get your users involved, you want to get your developers involved, you want to get dog fooders involved, you want to get beta testers, trusted testers involved. Well, you got to know what they're doing. If some people are off doing one thing and other people are off doing another thing, you want to be able to take credit for that. You don't want everyone going off and doing the same thing. And when the data starts coming back from the users, you want to be able to say, okay, in the matrix of things that needed testing, this is what those users did. So then, as a test engineer, you can go back in, take credit for all the stuff they did, and then start testing the stuff they didn't do. And now, so the next part of this then is, how do we get feedback from the field? Go ahead. So, that means we need test cases. I don't want a user saying, oh, I went to google.com, and I clicked this and that, and it crashed. And that sucks. I mean, you can't fix that bug. I want your test case. And I don't want, oh, I clicked here and here and here. I want JavaScript. And I want your bug. And I don't want, oh, it just like went pear-shaped, man. I don't want that. I'm trying to do a surfer. Is that not working? I don't want that. I want a screenshot. I want a video recording. Right? I want real stuff that I can go to a dev and just say, look, here's a bug, and the dev's going to say, wow, you're right, that's a damn bug, and I don't know how to fix it. So this is our record playback. Yes, record playback's been done. It's been done over and over and over again. Why did we do it? Because it's never been done right. So here's how record and playback done right. You start clicking around and doing stuff and re-record. We don't record some proprietary visual basic blah, blah, blah. It's JavaScript, the client language of the web. Why hasn't anybody done this before? And so go ahead and click again. So you end up getting this nice little test case that you can just go and click on and play again, right? You can drag that sucker, drop it right on your browser, and it just runs. It'll run in IE, it'll run in Chrome, it'll run in Firefox, it'll run in Safari. Why? Because they all speak JavaScript. That's what browsers do. And again, we can add validation to this so that we can edit the JavaScript in place. When it gets here, I'd like to be able to do something else, right? Check to see if this control is visible, and we can add that right to it. Now, the cool thing about it is, when we add that validation, can you go back? When we add this validation, let's say they change the software and breaks our test case, we can re-record the test case and it keeps the validation intact. All right, so you don't have to ever edit the JavaScript, just re-record it. And we don't tromp over the validation. The validation stays in place. Now go ahead. And so what we end up with is we show you the sequence. So we not only have JavaScript, we also have the sequence of screen snaps. Not just one, not just where the bug is, but every sequence of screen snap that you see. So it's a time snap, or you can get a video recording. Go ahead. And then so you can save the runtime and all that stuff. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, because I don't know what that screen was. All right, so now we can get test cases. So we're not just stuck with people doing a bunch of testing and not being able to take credit for it. We know exactly what our dog fooders are doing. We know exactly what our users are doing. By the way, this is a Chrome. This runs as a Chrome extension. The Firefox guys last week at GTAC announced we open sourced this. They picked it up and they are very close to releasing a version of this for Firefox. We're desperately seeking IE guys to help us with an extension there. So, but IE is different though. Any Microsofties in the crowd? Okay, you can admit it. It's okay. It's a great company. You guys need to up your game. My property value is relying on you all. Bring this economy back. IE, the best description of IE I've ever heard is it's not a browser. It's a collection of COM objects with browser-like properties. Right? And so automation is far more difficult in IE than it is in Chrome or Firefox. So it's difficult. It's a hard problem for Microsoft to solve. But they are looking at it, and they're smart people. I expect them to do something cool there. All right, so this is bug filing. This is the other thing that we need back from the users. And we've been doing this in our first test case for our little bug filing tool was in Google Maps, because if you think about it, it's impossible to test maps. I mean, there's no way you can call every business that we list on Google Maps and say, are you still in business? Are you still a pizza place? Is this how you spell your name? Are you still at this address? You know, blah, blah. There's just too much data. So you've really got to have a way for your users to say, well, that's my house, and I know the address is wrong. And so and it needs to be simple. So it's simple. Go ahead. So let's say we search for Seattle Pizza, click again, and we get the maps render this. Go ahead. And we click on one of them and it says it's Pie Course Pizza. And let's just say there's something wrong with that. There's not, but let's just say there's something wrong with that. Go ahead and click again. We click up here and there's a bug reporting tool. So this is a part of our Byte suite, the browser integrated test environment. Everything you've seen today exists in open source now. We open sourced, I think, 8 testing tools in 8 days at the end of September and the beginning of October. You can go to the Google testing blog or the Google open source blog. Go to the Google testing blog, because the Google testing blog has more hits than any other testing blog on the planet, and we are nipping at the heels of the development blogs within Google, and I would love to have the testing blog. I love it, right? We had that one day. Alberto Savoia made a post about code coverage, and I had the original how Google test software posts, which were both beat everything within Google, but we haven't pulled it all together for a single month. So then you go ahead and click again. We report a bug. Now this is customized for maps, right? So these are specific types of problems that a user can select from. So go ahead and let's say we select that. And now we'll go back one. We go back, and now the user said we have these crosshairs, and you say, all right, click the part of the screen that's wrong. And let's just say it's the title of the thing that's wrong. So go ahead and click again. And it says, okay, so that's wrong. So we've got some information here. And what do you want? You want to attach a screenshot to this bug report? Go ahead. Notice I haven't typed anything yet. The user has just submitted, just clicks. That's it. And so now we say, okay, this is the screenshot we're going to submit. Is that okay? Go ahead and click again. And they say, yeah, that's fine. And now we've got some other options here, right? This is the script that we picked up from our user. We're ready to submit this bug. Go ahead and click OK. And then there's a recording. They can check all this, or they can just say bug it, right? Go ahead. And then when they say bug it, it goes directly to our bug filing system internally at Google and gets picked up by our bug workflow automatically. And it's going to go right to a developer. And you ought to see, we kind of staged this, right? The very first bug that ever came in through this, we were ready, right? We were at the developer's desk. We got video recorders, waiting for the guy. He's like, God damn it, read your email, you dick. Stop coding for a little while, right? We're watching. It's like, oh, he's reading his email. Fuck, he's reading his email. Right? And he gets this, and he picks it up, and he starts looking through the bug, and he sees the attachments, and he clicks on it. He's like, wow. This user recorded a video, and he's telling his mates, he's like, check this out, right? This dude recorded a video. Look at this. And the guys say, dude, you got to fix it now, right? That was one developer to another, like, dude, you got to fix it now. Look at the work that went into this. so I went to my developer director counterpart, I'm like, man, we did it. You can't tell your developers this is automation. Right? You can't tell them it's automation. They're completely duped. So now what happens? So now what we did is we upped the ante on the developer experience. Instead of just looking at Buganizer and being able to click on attachments, this is what we've done now. So now they get this experience. This is they look at the bug report. The bug report looks like maps. And now click again. They can go up here and click this, and now they say, all right, show me all the bugs on this map, on these map tiles that are showing right now. This is all real data. These are all bugs that have been reported by dog food users inside of the walls of Google. And all of these bugs exist in this set of map tiles here. Click again. So if we click one of them, or if we say click the overlay here, it'll say, all right, we've got 3 bugs here that are outstanding. All of these bugs, some have been fixed, some have been verified. These are 3 bugs that haven't been fixed. And that's why they appear in red. If they appear in yellow, that means the developer's checked in a fix against it, but no tester has run through there and verified that it exists. And it'll kind of go orange to yellow to green, and then eventually the green box will just disappear because it's clutter at that point. And so this is now the bug fixing experience for Google developers. And they love it, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to, it's like a video game. Click again. And so then they can get more information about it, right? And they can click resolve. And once they resolve it, it turns yellow. And now when the tester sees that it's yellow, I need to go in there. It's been fixed, but it hasn't been verified, and you can go through and verify it. And then one more tool I want to show you. Go ahead, Quality Bots. Now, the story behind Quality Bots is, oh my goodness. This was only in 2009 when I joined Google. We were revving Chrome, and the push was to rev Chrome every single day, build Chrome every single day. At the time, we were like twice a week maybe, and the push was we want to do this every single day. I'm like, man, every single day. What if you break the internet? And they look at me like, well, what do you mean? What if we break the internet? What if there's what if you're revving these so fast that you don't realize there's a bug in there and CNN.com doesn't work, or worse, a porn site that really gets some traffic. And I'm telling you, we run the top 100 websites through this tool, and now we're actually at the top 10,000. You'd be surprised how many of them are naughty. And so they're like, well, no problem. We've got these people who do that. And they did. They had people. I saw the people. They got the new build of Chrome, and they render www.netflix.com, and then they go www.netflix.com, so that they look at the old version of Chrome, the new version of Chrome, and say, yep, check. And then they went to the next one, and I'm looking at this thing going, this is just sad. And I walk over to them, and I was like, I'm sorry. And they look at me like, what? I'm sorry you have to do this. Dude, I work for Google. The food's free. Oh, okay. So we thought we can do better. Now, back when we were working at Microsoft, when I was working at Microsoft, we actually had MSR researchers doing computer vision, right? They had cameras trained on the screen trying to figure out the changes between the same web page rendered in 2 different browsers for this very problem. And it was really difficult. They were way smarter than me, and they couldn't figure it out. So I knew I couldn't figure out that part of it. So I thought, well, what can I do, right? I certainly don't want all these human beings doing this because they never get through the top 100. And so, you know, the developer director was like, oh, let's throw some more people at it, right? They're testers, they're cheap. No, they're going to get burned. This is just not right. So anyhow, this is where quality bots came. So you add a URL, and there's a bunch of URLs in here. We try to do 10,000, top 10,000 on the web. Click again. And so the URLs may already exist. Go ahead. And now, so here's what it does. We've got 4 builds that we check. We've got the reliable build, which is what we call that's the one that's basically being shipped. The stable build, the dev build, and the canary build. So the canary build is always the new build. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take an instance of each of these 4 browsers, load all these each web page one at a time, and we're going to do diffs. We're going to look at 2 things, and that's it. And yes, we're going to miss some stuff. Who cares? We're going to look at the DOM. We're going to do a DOM. We're going to capture the DOM out of all 4 of these, and we're going to do a diff across them. And if the percentage of change is too much, we're going to flag it as a problem. If the percentage of change is not too much, we're going to say it passes, even if it's different, because differences exist, right? And we've kind of figured out the percentage just out of trial and error where we're wrong less. Second thing we're going to look at is the positioning of controls on the screen. We're going to look at every single control in all 4 of these browsers and see if they're in roughly the same place. That's why if the ad is changing, because there's ads rendered on all of these, they're always different. Ignore the ads, right? As long as they're in the same place, everything's okay. So click it again. So and then when there is a difference that's above our threshold, this is what you get. This is, so let's say this is like the stable build, and this is the canary build, and they're different. So you can click the overlay, click again, and you get exactly where they're different. By the way, this is farmed out to crowdsourcers. You all know utest.com, the crowdsource people? God, what a great idea that was. As soon as I heard about that company, I was like, damn, that would have been a great startup. They just got like 60,000 testers who just do shit for you. You're like, oh, we said we wanted to do an Android pass. We're like, oh, we want all of these Android we've got a list of like 80 different Android devices on 4 or 5 different Android builds, and I'm thinking maybe we'll get 20% of them. They had multiple people with all of those devices, right? I mean, they had every single one of them multiple times, and they were running all these test cases. We were shocked, right? That's the power of the crowd. Testers can never possibly do that well. We just ship it off to them and have a set of human eyes look at it. It costs us pennies. And we have a set of human eyes that look and say, oh, yeah, right, so, this has changed, right, because even in between, sometimes we will render the page twice, and the page will rev underneath in between the 2 renders. All right, so yeah, that's okay. And then business time 3 hours ago, that's okay, right? And then there's nothing wrong with this, right? Not a bug. And a human can look at it and in a few seconds say, yeah, that's fine, and then just click it as passed. It automatically gets flagged as passed in our database, and we're done. Click again. And then if you want more details, you can get more details. And click again. And that's it, I'm done. So I'm actually here to sell books. I've written 5. This is the most recent one that's out, and how Google Test software will come out as soon as the publishers are done fiddling around with it. They've only had 5 months, so you got to give them time. I wrote it in 5. So right now it's faster to write a book than it is to get it through the copy editing and publishing process. If you're interested in more of my thoughts and opinions, you can follow me on Google+, Twitter. I've got a dev blog I've just started, and the Google testing blog is the one I was hoping you all would do. That's where all the open source tools are. I'm done. Thank you.
So you're talking about
if you still remember what it was, a professor writes it down. I love it.
So you were talking about the code reviews.
Yeah.
if people are pair programming for that?
We don't do much pair programming. I mean, I think it goes on organically and naturally, looking over your shoulders. We don't do formal pair programming. We don't do formal agile. We don't celebrate Scrum Masters. We do what we do.
Right.
And sometimes pair programming is part of that. Sometimes agile-like activity is part of that. But we ship software sometimes every minute, every hour, every day. It's agile. I don't know if it qualifies in the industry term of agile or not. Google loves to reinvent stuff. We don't take anything on at face value at all. And wow, lots of questions. I'll take one from this side.
What about security?
Let's see, it's 8:20. I'll answer. I've got 2 minutes, so just I'll try to get through all of these. So I actually own security testing for the company, even though I've transitioned to a development director role. By the way, I've done that because I'm really experimenting with this testing as a feature thing. I really believe that that's the future of testing, not as a separate discipline, but as something done by developers and owned by program managers and part of the source. If there's one artifact that's going to get proper care and feeding, it's going to be the source code that ships. Why not make testing part of that? If you don't want it to ship, pull it out at the end, but treat it like a first-class citizen. So, so testing is the security testing is one area for the company I still own, and it is a separate discipline, right? It's such a specialty. And this whole test is dead argument out there. The specialty testing will never die. Privacy, security, internationalization, accessibility, all of these sorts of things require special skills. And it's difficult to get those skills from the crowd. If you certainly don't want to trust security to your users. So that's something that is still kind of this one-off thing. And I think probably always will be. I made a small fortune doing Y2K testing in the late 90s because it was easy and it was paid well. And when I went from Y2K testing back to functional testing, I was pissed at how my salary took a drop, and that's why I got into security testing. And that's my second book, How to Break Software Security, which is basically a rewrite of how to break software thinking like an attacker. It's still separate. More questions? We'll go back over to this side right here.
I might know the answer to this because I do read the Google Test blog.
All right, good for you.
Going back to the 10-minute test plan, ACC, when it comes to components, what about, on a larger scale, needing to test the integration of components?
So, no. Now, if you can define a capability that's not the component level. Components are separate, and integration is never a separate entity. But the capabilities will define scenarios that go through components. But now, if you've read a Google testing blog, you read me talking about small, medium, and large tests. And these are developer-oriented testing activities, where small tests are tests within a single function. Medium tests are tests across function, in fact, nearest neighbors. So medium test to me isn't just two arbitrary components. It's two components that interact specifically. Right? They either call each other, they share data, or communicate directly somehow. Right? So a lot of the integration stuff is really handled at dev time. If you're finding a lot of component integration issues late in the test cycle, you don't solve those problems with testing. You solve those problems by pushing them upstream. Good question. This side? Yes, sir.
So if Guido at Guido's Pizza doesn't like his competitor, he goes into Google Maps and says that company, that pizzeria is out of business. How do you guys?
So and this happens, and it's sad that this kind of stuff takes place. There are companies out there that will design a bot for you to lower a score of a competitor on Yelp or Zagat or these rating sites. And so, you get a lot of, they have, CAPTCHAs and things like that help stop that. We actually have a bunch of humans who do this too. Because there are certain places where you just can't do without humans. In Hyderabad, in Mountain View, and in Bothell, we have human beings that do nothing but validate our maps 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so these bugs are triaged by humans. I mean, they literally call the phone numbers and check references and things like that. And we also have a network of just individuals across the country who validate our maps as well. You'd be surprised what a great community the cartographer community is, that are just really into maps and the accuracy of maps, comparing our maps against Microsoft's maps, against Apple's coming out with mapping technology now, and so a lot of time, and we'll use theirs too, by the way. Bing and Microsoft use each other as oracles all the time, right? If we've got a phone number that's wrong, we'll check it against Bing. Bing guys check it against us. We talk to each other all the time. I mean, it's always actually difficult to call any of these people competitors because we work so closely with them. But a lot of human beings involved in that loop. Any more? Over here? Lost it, this side.
So how about the time complexity? I mean, if it's a whole factor, like if they have given 2 hours and if you give them 4 hours, which like testing does 2 hours of testing and development does 2 hours. If the dev says that I got 4 hours and I could write better without any bug, it's all possibility of like all these ifs and buts and conditions which you
time doesn't matter. The software, the developer is, the skill matters, not time. I don't care how long it takes anybody to write any code, right? If you miss this build, you get the next one. In a situation where everybody's writing code and there's an automated workflow process that gatekeeps bad code from getting into the build, if you don't make the build, you don't make the build, right? And that's between you and your next review. So I don't care if it's 2 hours, 4 hours, time doesn't matter, skill matters. And man, we know it. I mean, every tester on every project, I'm not going to point you guys out, you Googlers out, but you know the developers on your team who write the most bugs, right? You just do, right? They're the new guys, they're the guys that got a bad review and are a little bitchy, these few weeks, so they're just not as good as the rest of the team, right? It's talent, not time. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
A lot of software out there in the world is one-off, custom, or internal stuff.
Yeah.
You can't crowdsource your testing. There's a lot of things that you have here are not, or it's not cost effective to write that automation suite that you've got there because maybe it's not a browser app, so I can't borrow.
So I think the challenge is not to say, so I gave you 10 things before I started talking about testing that really are impactful for quality. Some of those will apply to every piece of software. But I think the challenge is not to say, okay, well, I can't use utest.com just for an example because I've got this special considerations right on Boeing and I can't just throw a bunch of people on an airplane. There are things you can do, right? You can get your own employees or a crowd. I mean, we have really taken the dog fooding process is what a lot of people call it, right? You eat your own dog food. And we even have another version of it coming out now called fish food within Google, which is like, it's not even ready for dog food, but we want to get a bunch of people looking for it, right? We know there's going to be bugs. And so, manage that process. That's going to make a big impact. So I think all of these ideas can be done by almost anyone. And if you can't do them all, right?
But in some form.
And it requires some innovation. It requires some creative thinking. And I think testers are good at innovation and creative thinking. Yes, sir.
What incentives do you use for doing the dog food and the fish food? When we try to do a bug bash, pizza,
Yeah.
whatever,
Good
what other
question.
ideas do you have?
So, Google, where basically, you can pull money out of couch cushions, I suppose. We do have built-in incentive processes. We have things called peer bonuses, where I can type in my browser go/GHR and click the peer bonus button, and I can enter Kenji's email address and write a few sentences about why he helped me out, and he gets money. Right? On his paycheck, very next paycheck, he will have enough to take him and his date out for a very, very nice evening. So, we have processes built in for that. But there's also, there's a lot of things that have nothing to do with actual money. It's like, if you help somebody out, you go to them and say, look, I worked for your team for a while, annual review's coming up, would you guys write some peer feedback for me? These sorts of things happen a lot. And then, there's always T-shirts and stuff like that. It's all over the place. But those things, incentives are important. Little incentives. And Google has figured this out. It costs less to feed an employee, because we have it down to the penny. We know exactly how much that guy eats. Money, right? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And Google's looked at this and said, you know what? They tend to take shorter lunch breaks, and they tend to code more when they stay here locally instead of going out. We're going to feed these bastards, and we're going to feed them well.
That's funny.
And it's awesome. I mean, what a great benefit that is to you stay, man. Googlers have a work ethic that's just scary. I was at the Fremont office today, and this started at 7, so I'm looking. It's like 6:05, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, I'm gonna leave, and people are looking at me like slacker. So, yes, sir.
Just wondering, your open source tools that you put out, how well do they carry to an Android environment? Or
So we're working on Android. These are mostly, the first set of tools that we've released are browser tools because they're the most ubiquitous. The standards were kind of on our side. We're taking a really good hard look at Android. I tell you that the crowdsource deal works so well for mobile. I mean, we can't build a lab with every piece of hardware because Android, it's not like the iPhone, right? It's not like a single piece of hardware. Motorola, Samsung, HTC, all these people build different hardware. They all, we've got honeycomb, gingerbread, ice cream sandwich. We've got all these different versions of Android out there. There's still, I mean, you'd be shocked at how many G1s, the original brick of a phone, are still out there and engaging customers, and their bugs we still care about. So crowdsourcing has really worked well for us there. But you should definitely expect, like the bug reporting stuff, that's the first thing. You've got to be able to get bugs back from the field. That's the most important thing you can do. You'll start seeing some of that stuff show up. But you got to be careful on the Android because performance is such an issue. You can't just put a bunch of bug reporting. So a lot of times what we'll do is there'll be a customer that has a problem. We'll push the bug reporting software to them, and then we'll withdraw it after we diagnose the machine. There was another one back there.
Yeah, we brought a bunch of users into our QA department, and they got 100% success rate. Every time we try and release something, they find bugs that we didn't even know existed. It's a legacy system, and I'm just ecstatic. It's been fantastic. But can you talk about maintaining legacy systems in your testing mentality?
Legacy, yikes.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, legacy is there's an old joke about why did it take God only 7 days to create the universe? No installed base, right? I mean, there's nothing and when there is something up, you end up it up, right? So that was, I beat that. Did you all get that? I beat that. Legacy is really hard. It makes everything harder. And Microsoft, did the Microsoft guy step out and talk about that? I feel sorry for him. That's one of the reasons that Android is so specific about naming these cool names, right? Like the latest version of Android is called Ice Cream Sandwich. And they're like, they talk about ice cream sandwich like it's a different product. That's exactly what we want. So they'll get it, right? It's a different product. Don't expect ice cream sandwich features to work on honeycomb. Brilliant marketing, right? I'll tell you, if Microsoft would just drop that Windows label, man, they could get so much for that, right? First of all, it reeks of the 1990s. It's not a name that inspires, wow, Windows, right? It used to. But it just connects this whole product line and creates these expectations. Stop it. Start naming things differently. And upgrade your users faster, right? So I'm not going to tell you how to handle legacy because I don't think you should. I think you ought to defeat it You look at what is the, do you know the most prevalent version of Internet Explorer on the planet right now? Thank you. 6. You got it. Well done. 6. 6. Do you know what they're shipping right now? 9 and 10. Right? 10's coming soon. 10 looks wicked cool too. Man, that's a problem. Do you know the most prevalent version of Chrome? The latest. And do you know how big of a footprint the latest version of Chrome has? 100%. More than 99%. It's almost, right? There's still some people that just don't get online. It's a bloody browser. Well, you stay online for 10 minutes. So, you know, they get on, they do their stuff, and they turn the machine off. They're like, oh, we were going to update that. Come on! So we send them emails. We're like, hey, you know, there's an upgrade. Because we know them, right? There's an up. Just leave your machine on for a few minutes. It's not that much electricity. It's free. We'll spot you the. So defeat it, right? So Android is used one way of just, you know, renaming the operating system to treat it as a different product, and Chrome just, man, they're pushy. And you know, we can update Chrome so fast now. It's the internal code name of that project is Omaha, and it's built here in Kirkland. You didn't work on it. You didn't used to work on Omaha, did you? No. Oh, yeah. So Omaha is, it was Roger that worked on Omaha. Omaha is our installer, and no one ever hears about it. No one ever knows about it. It's reliable as hell. It's really small, and it's wicked fast, and it doesn't advertise itself, right? It doesn't say, oh, here I am. Would you like me to update you? Press continue. Continue. Oh, well, you know, we're going to shut some things. We don't shut anything down. We just rebuild your damn browser in place. You don't even have to close Chrome, right? We will swap out individual pieces of Chrome to make you up to date. So that's your answer to legacy.
So if I get the little thing that says you really should restart it.
Yeah, you get the little thing, the
Something that it
little
couldn't
exclamation point by the,
Yeah.
that's when we need a little extra use. So the little tool thing, you know, the little, in the right-hand corner, there's a little wrench. You'll sometimes get an exclamation point by it. That means, like, we have to mess around with you a little bit. So please click. You got a question?
I'm sure there's tons. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of questions. But I want to make sure that those that have to leave, we can get that out of the way. And also, for our agreement, I want to make sure that you get another.
This is the founder of Quardev, right?
A quick drawing. We have 2 actually tonight. One is to be first in line to be the first person who gets to buy James' book over at Barnes & Noble, so we have a gift certificate from Barnes & Noble for that.
Yeah, and it's restricted to just the book. All right, so
mix them up. Yeah, no peeking.
This is the one I want right here. James Whittaker. Rick Nelson.
Really?
Yeah, really. No, he's the CEO. We can't get to the CEO. Look, it says CEO right there.
And then we have $50 to
You
Starbucks.
never won anything in your life. Yeah. Really? Me? Can you read that again? Maybe it's Richard somebody. Roy Coons.
So I'm sure that a lot of people still have more questions. I just wanted to, you know, come up and.
Yeah, I've got a few more minutes.
We got the high five now. But thank you, everybody.
By the way, just let Quardev know how this was. If it sucked, then they won't invite me back.
But I also wanted to thank everybody. Just take one moment, because this is the culmination of 10 years of doing this event. And some of the people that have been here all the time, thank you so much for building this community and making this such a neat little group. You know, we do this thing every other month. It's really great to see everybody, and it's one of the
this
things.
was a full house on a rainy night where the Seattle Sounders are getting probably killed.
No,
Anybody
it's
check it?
tied 0.
Oh. Tie means we're winning.
Oh, no.
We're winning.
Probably everybody.
No.
It's 0-0 working.
But up to you, James, how much time you want to take?
I'm here for this much longer, so.
Keep him talking, you'll be able to.
We'll keep the doors open as long as you feel like staying and as whatever your schedule is.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Joe, thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Really appreciate you.
I know you've got.
No, I'm here.
To go to, so
I'm here.
I'll talk to you if you don't leave.
I'm here.
Yes, sir.
Okay.